What happened?
Going live. Bring it down some more. We got too much hit overhead.
You got too many of those things. You want me to grab some?
No, man, it's a good angle. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
What's it say?
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
This episode will not be like any other episode you have ever seen before. This episode will be quite more reserved.
Drew Network.
This episode is going to be more of us really talking to y'all. That's what this episode is about. This episode is about something that we as brothers we let come between us. It's something that has caused not only our family but many families, many households, many marriages, many mother-son, mother-daughter relationships to tarnish. And we realize that if this episode or this video reaches you, it is for you. We realize that there were words that are used in that organization of chosen fews. So I might poke fun and say, use it in my own right this evening, but just for an introduction, I am Drewski Wilski, the bald and bearded one.
I'm Brother Tony.
Brother Tony is here with us.
Drew Network.
We are here on the Drew Network, and if you see the title, so if you're here, you're here for can I say something real quick, Tony? When 2024 started, T.I.'s son had this little slogan, standing on business, right? And when it was in 2023. And when 2024 came, I said, "Oh, that's just so corny. I don't want to take that because it just sounds like it don't have enough. It don't have enough for me." But you know what I realized? Today, we are standing on business. It's not gonna be a lot of those. We're gonna do a lot of talking. Just a little introduction to how we even got here. How did we even end up in this quote unquote situation? In the words of Mark Wahlberg, what happened?
What happened?
Tony, can you talk to us? Can you give the people a little bit of a just let them understand so that we can talk to them?
Yeah, so the story starts long ago in Cleveland, Ohio. The thing is our family's association with the organization comes from our mother and her upbringing. She wasn't brought up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but her best friends were in a divided household. And at a very young age, being friends with them, she had started Bible studies and she had started going to meetings with them. And as time progressed and she learned more about the organization and the beliefs that she was learning, some of the things that were happening in her friend's household made her feel some kind of a way. So because they were in a divided household, they still had religious celebrations, So when Christmas came, they still had a Christmas tree up, and my mother couldn't understand why that was. So she had confronted her friend who was in the witness family, and she explained to her that her parents were not of the same faith both, and that her household was divided. And from that point on, my mother and her friendship, they were lifelong friends. But from that point on, that friendship with that friend cemented in our mother uh, a religious uh, setting. So her household wasn't very religious at all. Everyone sort of did what they wanted in regards to religion, mostly Catholic. But because they weren't practicing Catholics, my grandmother allowed my mom to do as she pleased with her friends. So she went to meetings and she learned more. And as time went on, becoming a teenager, you naturally fall out of the loop of being serious with things, but she always held those beliefs. And later in her adult life, after her relationship with our father dissolved, she then turned back to that friend for advice and counseling. And of course, that friend said, let me send out a sister, because you're asking me a lot of questions. At the time, that friend wasn't active as a witness and they didn't want to give information wrong. So they said, let me send someone out. So they sent a sister out who was a pioneer at the time. And she came and she began to study with our mother at that time.
Your mic is a little close. Like maybe, hold on. Just trying to move it. Slide the whole thing sideways. Yeah, there you go. And bring it close to you. Angle it close. No, extend it. Yeah, because you're there. You go. Because you're bumping it. Don't hide your face either. Let the people see you.
All right.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
So hold on. I don't want to interrupt, but I do want to get to where that intersection of our lives and this this
Well,
I
that's the point where we're attached at that point. So
okay.
that's when she's now a young adult.
I just want to call it
single.
I would like to call it a business, because that's what it feels like to me. It feels like a business. It doesn't feel like anything. It don't feel like anything right. And for a long time, like being like I'm getting a little bit ahead, but I'm gonna cite myself. For a long time, I didn't even think to even research and get my own understanding of what I had got myself away from, and probably in the subconscious mind, because that was just, we'll get to it, but it wasn't anything. Oh man. So you want to just get to where that intersection happened in our lives, and then
So at that point, mom started studying. She's now single. She's raising. She's got 2 boys on her own, and she turns to her friend and she starts studying. And while our mother was studying, her mom passed away. And that the death of her mom is the real sort of beacon, that changing point that made our mother realize this was the one organization of Bible-based faith that offered her mother back. So at that time, all the other faiths professed afterlife of heavenly reuniting, and the witnesses were teaching a message that no, it's going to happen here on earth, and when you get back together, it's going to be for forever, and everyone's going to be there. And that message resonated with our mother greatly. So from that point on, she was determined to do whatever was needed, essentially to see her mother again.
I think I don't know if y'all remember in that last episode. I think as you said that out loud, I said, damn, maybe I got that impulsive shopper in me where I can tell that she was always looking for like the message in what you're saying. And if you're saying something that's really good and it has a good foundation to it, and it's not like the 2024 culture where it's like, oh, let me find out if the owner is somebody that's on some trash.
Yeah, let me Google it. Let me Google his name.
Yeah, let me Google the owner.
Yeah, this is
before I go put my clothes in the camera. It's like, shut up, y'all corny.
This is 1990. So yeah, this is pre-computer world, readily accessible searching of information. So in that time, everyone around her was saying focus on the Bible. So when she did, she found a group that would basically fit those things that was missing for her, and at that time it was her mother. So so many people's stories involve coming into the organization at a time of death, catastrophe, huge life change, and that's sort of like an important feature that so many religions in all the world really highlight, is that, oh, this is your turning point to come into their faith. And that was the same in the case from our start, but at that time we were just a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old.
I think we were a little bit older than that.
When she first started studying,
when Rosie came at Wake Park,
I was 6.
Oh yeah, because I was in 3rd grade. Wow. Oh man. So yeah, so we said we weren't going to use anybody's name. So when he said, just know that, you know, we took that out on the first one. So I want to say something real quick. If it seems like for any reason that I'm like not knowing how to do this, it's because I don't. It's almost like how I tell my son, I never had a 15-year-old son before. So you got to kind of roll with me. Like, you know, this is all new to me and new to us. And being able to express ourselves. And if you know, and if you're somebody that's watching this that has hopefully gotten away from that organization, you'll understand the kind of just respect that we still just have. Like we will not be disrespectful. We don't wish to, you know, hurt anyone's feelings. We're not trying to. We're just giving information,
and we're sharing our story.
And we're sharing our story, on probably what is going to be the greatest platform ever, and I don't even have to hit the drop. So, without further ado, from our first encounter was together, and as that 5-year-old, see what Tony did, and what Tony does is he goes and he does that research. So he came equipped already. So just remember that this is a man that, if it doesn't make sense, eventually he's gonna get to the bottom of it. But we were misled. We were misled, and I'm going to let you pick up on just from now. I was a little bit older because I very vividly, as we talked before, we shot this. I remember the color of her lipstick and her smile and her painter hat, and I always, from that moment, I always couldn't understand, why do these people like us so much. And then I understood when it was the other way around. And we're not going to get to that yet.
And I think that's the important thing that you're sort of talking about is the fact that with so many groups that are deemed high control groups, the initial introduction to that group from someone outside of that group is typically an introduction of what they call love bombing. You're overwhelmed.
That's exactly what I was going to get to.
Yeah, and that is definitely the case of what we experienced, the attention, the fact that there was a whole group of people who were now basically telling her, you're not going to be alone in this anymore, and you'll get your mommy back at the end. So it was literally a total package in her eyes for a single woman who really just wanted to take care of her family and was very focused on family ultimately. So that's an experience a lot of people express, and one that, looking back, was something that she experienced, we experienced as young people. And just as a way of reference, we should probably now express how far along we were. How old were you when you left the organization, and what were you at that time in the organization? Like, were you baptized?
When I left, I have a funny story, actually. A very funny story that it was the prelude to it. I actually remember I was at the position where I was giving talks, or what you would call maybe a symposium if you're not of that religion, but I was giving, what were they, 5 to 15-minute pieces.
Mm-hmm. So you were on the Theocratic Ministry School.
I was on the Theocratic Ministry School.
You were unbaptized publisher.
I was going door to door. And just a little funny story to lighten the moment. And you were there. My last talk that I gave, it was delivered by my cousin, who I still to this day look to as a role model. He wrote it for me, and I did no practice or anything. And I remember he put the word peoples in there, and halfway through it, I was reading it and I said something peoples. And I laughed in front of what was about 25 people in that little second area, the second school. And I laughed myself off the stage. Like, that was really funny. I didn't get past that word, and that was the last time that I laughed.
And you laughed, and you just exited.
And I exited stage. I exited stage left. So that was not one of my better moments.
That was the best moment.
That was probably.
It took you out. Shout
out to my cousin. My cousin, man, I love you to death, man. But if you happen to see this, I just hope that it.
And he was saving you that day by putting it together for you.
He was saving me that day,
and you were relying on your natural flow to just go ahead and
I'm thinking that I could just carry it, and didn't read it one time. He said, "Bro, you should go ahead and you should read it before we go." I said, "No, I got this." I said, "Nigga, I done gave what? This is probably my 20th time doing this,
if not more."
It was my 20th time, but that's just an arbitrary number I'm putting out there for anybody watching. But my story basically ties into. It'll just basically just be a perfect bridge into his. But basically, at the age of, I was 7 or 8 because I was in 3rd grade. That's when a lady came to our door with red lipstick and a painter hat. and some very nice red fingernails. And she was just really nice to us. And as Tony said, I felt like, and at that time, and in hindsight, she was love bombing us. There was just an overwhelming amount of, and for
Everything you thought of was amazing.
For two kids that had ignored the roaches because we had mice, this lady was next to Jesus. You see what I'm saying? She took us to different places, and she invited us to her home, which didn't have roaches and mice. It was a very nice place, and then she took us to another nice place where there were more nice people like her, and the love just came in, and before you knew it, we were kids that were celebrating moving to the suburbs and celebrating the fact that we were delivered from these roaches. And that is a real thing. So in a fun light as we tell our story, because if I told it really dark and really like if I Dave Chappelle told someone in the audience, he said, if I told you my story, it would break your heart. That's how I feel. So I'm telling this story with kid gloves. I am. I'm telling this story with kid gloves. I'm telling this story for kid ears because I know that this, the universe is powerful. I'm going to tell you, Tony said, hey, man, when you're putting something kind of powerful together, your electronics ain't go. And it took us a good 7 minutes to just let the universe settle before this started. So we're not, ain't no TD Jakes. Ain't none of that. We're not Joel Osteen. We're not here to preach. We are here to only tell our stories.
And I think a lot of other stories tend to be about switching people from that team to now the team that they found. And I think that that's probably a more important thing to highlight, that in our lives right now, neither of us are religious people. While we may be spiritual, we are not religious people. So we have not come to some understanding of a new group that you gotta get in on now while it's hot.
Yeah, so we're not trying to bring you anywhere else. But without further ado, I do want to go ahead and get into my quote unquote exit. What kind of caused those things, and I will sit here and tell you that what caused me to be divided from my family was me being myself. I'm going to sit here today and I'm going to tell you that none of my youthful ambitions were embraced, because you're not taught to see anything past. Like if you had a 10-year plan, it just we'll talk you out of that.
The world is ending.
If you had a son that just did nothing but sit there and watch Ken Griffey Jr. shag fly balls in the center field, and he was probably he was really good. You weren't taught to embrace that.
Yeah.
You see, the thing about it that's so bad that I was forced to suppress and put to the side my ambitions, my abilities, my God-given talents. I sat and I smoked a blunt with my auntie probably about 3 years ago. And as she hit the weed, she said, you was real good at baseball. And I looked at her and I said, oh, shit, auntie. And she said, what? I said, you the first family member that, oh, man. I said, auntie, it's over now. So I can't go. I can't. Well, but just speaking, keeping it a buck, I can't. And I told her, I said, you're the first family member that's ever even acknowledged. That's why I put our job as parents is to put that battery in your kids' back. Make sure that they are mentally equipped for these fucked up people in this world. Not that, everything's going to be a paradise in about 4 years, son. That's not it. So with that came a lack of parenting. Certain decisions were put in what they call elders' hands. Okay?
And that's a very popular thing to happen with single mothers.
I remember there were 2 occasions for me. When I realized my athletic ability, and I had already I'm going to high school. I made the team without mom even knowing. I pulled off 2 practices. Now when I got to a point where you got to get this physical, dude. I go to mom. Mom says, let's go to a man whose name rhymes with Simpson. And Jesus Christ, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. We were sitting around, and basically the reason for me not being able to pursue any extracurricular or athletic things would be because they had already determined that there will be verbiage used in that locker room that will sway me and will make me a spiritually weaker person.
You got to guard your association.
So not only am I growing a beard, which we'll get to later, I'm really good at baseball. I'm really good. I'm good. I'm good. And just the thought. My girl's sitting right here with me. She'll throw something at my head if I'm lying. I can't make it through an NFL draft without crying because it hurts me to see the camaraderie, what it looks like to have a parent pat you on the back and say, "See, that shit paid off." But mine was in reverse. It was like, "Oh no, we're never going to embrace that. We're not coming nowhere near that."
And because of that, some of your greatest skills and attributes were almost demonized. So it puts a reverse, in your case, it puts a reverse card on everything that should propel you to being productive and great and awesome in the world. So it is definitely a huge. I forgot what I was about to say, but it's
it was a detriment to me. For me, it was telling. And just to speed up a little bit, because we don't want to keep y'all here forever. And in 2000, I'm going past my age. Basically, my mom sent me with my auntie. And rest in peace to my auntie Tina. And she took me in with loving arms. She took me in with loving arms. I had my own room. She let me drive her car. She was just it was all this stuff that in my mind when I went there, I said, as I was going there on that 12 to 15 minute trip from our city to hers, I said, okay, I gotta impress Auntie Tina. I didn't. She took me as I was. She respected me as a person just because I was a person.
And you really do get used to your worth being attached to arbitrary set of rules that someone set up. and how well you're following these specific rules. And if you don't mesh well with that system, then you are literally just going to get ran out. And essentially, I remember that time period. And again, looking back, it's like all that control that was lost from our mother because she felt like she was doing the right thing and listening to her brothers who was saying, well, this is going to divide your household if he wants to be here and he wants to do this and he wants to engage in this activity, which are things that are normal to developing youths in the world. You're trained in that organization that it is all or nothing. So you're not to feel bad because you offered the all. You can stay with me, you can live here, you can do all that, but all your time is dedicated to this. You believe in this, so there's no option to not believe in this. And it's weird when you get to a point where you realize it's like, oh wow, you can't not think this is right and still stay here. You have to leave.
I never,
and you experienced that right in your teenage years.
I never really, I fully capitalized that, but I had realized it without realizing, like you said, in my teenage years. And a few things that just stuck out to me was the fact that during our process of being a part of that organization, our mother herself was this fellowship. And if you don't know what that means that everybody that you was talking to yesterday that was attached to that organization, they are demanded and they are certainly not going to talk to you once your name gets announced on that stage. I realized that the little bit of hope that I did and I was hanging on to when that happened, that they stopped talking to my mom, which meant they stopped talking to me. Our interactions went, and there was even not even because I seen a video. Shout out to JW Thoughts. Shout out to JW Thoughts. He is very, very good with his breakdowns. I like the way he delivers his message. He actually reminds me of one of a former Jehovah's Witness that I grew up with, and he's very passionate. And y'all go like his page, y'all go subscribe to his page, and show that man some love. But he was very telling with this video that he recently put out, that the Jehovah's Witnesses themselves put out, and they're just showing how they shun their families.
And when you look at the process of disfellowshipping, and from their own standpoint, it is one that literally disrupts, breaks down the dynamic of families, and it is not something that's it's not something that's few and far between. It's not something that's irregular. It is a regular part of it. I remember now coming up and you're sort of getting updated on who's been announced. Who do you think is going to get? And it's like local gossip. It's a world within a world, and ultimately, if only it were true, would it be worth it?
I have a question. Do you remember when our big sister, rest in peace to our big sister, Chanel Chambers, we're gonna say her name. We're gonna keep her name alive. That was definitely big sis. You remember when she got this fellowship, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I still used to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
I still used to talk to her. I used to talk to her outside because she was preparing me I remember when she got this fellowship, she was preparing me for the junior high. And I remember I was really, really scared to go to that school. And right before that, we moved and I went to Milkovich for 7th grade. And I remember just always tapping in with her because she went through that school and she was a little bit older than me. And she's like, yo, the junior high, they in there fighting all the time. And I'm just sitting there looking at her like, oh my God, like you're supposed to be filled with like great information and you're supposed to tell me nice stuff and you're telling me that they're in there really, really getting it in. Like, you know what I'm saying? I gotta get my hands right. But I still used to talk to her, and I realize now in that moment, just thinking about that I would never, like, even if you think you got my mind and you got my brain to a point where you think that I'm not, like, I'm not following all the rules. I'm not. I would still have to talk to that person, almost because you're telling me I can't. And people are cutting off their own kids. You're cutting off your own kids. But a few things other than watching my mother get this fellowship, I realized that she was a very, very, like, powerful woman. I realized a lot of my traits in me of bringing people together, kind of always wanting people around, cooking for people. I'm not with the taking care of people's kids thing that she got. That missed me. That really missed me. Like, if you bring your kids, you have to be here.
I got it.
Yeah. Shout out to you. Well, you're an uncle. You're an uncle. Maybe, maybe if I had that pleasure, that would be different. But there was a lot of things about my mother that I noticed that were suppressed. And I noticed that there was, and I'm going to tell you this, and being real with the camera, with the microphone, and with myself. This is in hindsight, kind of as I become an adult, and I'm realizing this after I'm leaving. This is not me in the moment saying this is a misogynistic group. This is not that. But as I become a father and now a father to a 9-year-old girl, and I'm like, man, you can light up you can do comedy right now. You see what I'm saying?
And
like
to
I
think
see, yes,
to mentally raise her to
raise
be
her to just be less is beyond me. That is not anything that I am. I'm trying to do. So I just realized that there was a lot of suppression of women. Like, I know politics are corrupt, but how you gonna tell your little pretty daughter she can't be Kamala Harris? What if your little daughter likes to wear blazers and she likes to give speeches? What if she's really captivating? What if she can lead? What if she can lead better than 10 of those 11 men in that room? I asked myself this, and I really want to know. But if this gets to you, to my role model, to my cousin that I look up to, whose name rhymes with thinking, what happens when your son has a mean crossover? What happens when his jump shot is so ill that you say, wait a minute now? Or do you not say, wait a minute, and you guys just live at the park and you guys play pickup for life? Where you somehow tricked him into a point where he can't monetize his talent, and then he realizes at 35 he goes to the YMCA and hoops one time, and they're like, yo, dude, you should be somewhere else. And now it's too late. Now it's Auntie Sheila telling me that I'm good at baseball. And so I'm hold on. I'm gonna turn this over to you. I just, for me, and to close, I did not get baptized. Like I said, I ended my tenure with that organization with a speech, and I fumbled through it, and it went how it went. But Tony's about to tap in for y'all. So I'm gonna fall back. I'm probably gonna mute my mic, And it's Tony T time.
So at that point, don't be a joke. At that point when you left, Mom got this fellowship. You had left, and I was now the older male in the household, and I wasn't baptized yet. So I decided to get baptized while my mom was disfellowshipped. And I remember doing that and how proud she was that I did it, even though she was disfellowshipped at the time. And going with my cousins to my baptismal dinner at Champs with peppercorn chicken, and my mother couldn't come. And the type of person my mother was, though, she was okay with that. She was happy that I had gotten baptized. And in that point in time, I felt like, I'm holding it down for the family. I'm going to make these coattails as tough as I can, make them out of iron. They can all ride my coattails. My brother, my mother, cousins, sisters, brothers, anybody. So at that point, my mind focused intently on sticking with the faith for the purpose of being saved in the end. And everyone who is of the organization knows that the end is always coming. So one of the things that really ultimately tripped me up is that throughout all those years, I'd never learned how to process proper long distance time. I could process everything happening today, and I can process things that are going to happen 1,000 years from now. But I cannot process things that are going to happen 10, 20, 30 years, because that time period was always too gray and too full of change in my mind.
So it was almost like how they don't really encourage like college or anything like that.
It goes into the disencouragement of all forms of anything outside. So many witnesses are in low-paying positions at work because mentally the world is ending next year. If you're always in the state that the world is ending, you're not as concerned about pushing forward at your job so that 5 years from now you can afford the mortgage that you're going to want. So many witnesses end up bumbling through their lives, and if they have the right connections, they'll get jobs that pay them well. But so many end up in low-paying jobs chronically without ever being trained, chronically, because you're chronically feeling like there is no point in the next moment. The next moment is about to end.
I remember because I remember how Mom really kind of tried to keep that family. Like she didn't want to be funny with Auntie Tina, but Auntie Tina never went to the Kingdom Hall, so there was they kicked it. They was tough. You know what I'm saying? That was her girl, and it was like, oh, when I do this now we gotta. But it gets to a point where my son is being unruly. I remember that too. That was a whole thing. She said, well, if you don't want to go to the Kingdom Hall, I can just go to the courts and deem you unruly. So therefore, I can wipe my hands of you. So these are things that my own mother is saying to me. And I'm like, wipe your hands of me. Like, it just sounded so literal.
And official.
And just finite. It was the end. It was like, damn, like you really? And, I remember, like I said, I remember that ride going to Auntie Tina's, and I don't want to backtrack, but just if you're watching this, love your family because they're your family. Love them because they're great people. Love them because when you hug them, y'all both feel warm. Like have a glass of wine with your aunt and your cousins, and share edible with somebody. Like just do anything that brings you together. Give a gift for your own reason. And when it's Christmas time, buy somebody a gift. You know, it's just so divisive. My my dear daughter Angelina, rest in peace to her. My mother was never able to see her alive. And even when it came time for her to have a service, it, they were not there. So there's a level of commitment from certain people to this organization that will cause regular people like myself to just feel defeated, to just feel like, who really loves me? Who's gonna love me if I'm not exactly that perfect person? Who's gonna love me without having to go down a checklist of things? Who's gonna love me just because I'm Andrew?
Yeah. Your standard of love becomes deed based. You have to do things in order. It's conditional love. You learn a lot of conditions on love, and it breaks families apart. After you left and we moved to Las Vegas, I'm now baptized.
And we were next door neighbors, as in we cohabitated. My room's here, your room's there. Like, you're a knock away, and we go how many years without talking to each other?
What point?
Between from when you left, when you guys left, until, I mean, it wasn't a cutoff from there. It was like, oh, bye.
You mean when you moved out?
Yeah, but when you guys left, I came back I was with the family for a very short amount of time. And
when we left Cleveland.
Yes.
In Vegas.
Cleveland's not in Vegas, so when y'all left Cleveland, I was in the house.
Yeah.
At 51A.
Yeah.
From that time until what was that gap of where we didn't communicate?
Oh, before you actually moved back out to Vegas?
Yes. Just not even, you don't have to per se say
7 years?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. The number of years.
Yeah. It was years of disconnect. And again, it's that thought of, I'm baptized, you were raised, you know better. You were raised with the same rules as me, and I'm following the rules. You're not. I can't. And that's how you learn to rationalize your horrible decisions for treating your family based on the fact that you were love bombed by these people, but those people will also throw you out if ever you don't have a thing that fits into this. Or as what happened with me personally, I began to study more things in the Bible and then started to realize, oh, well, wait a minute, that's not right. And this isn't right. And that's not right. And at this point, I'm baptized. I'm pioneering for 10 years.
And a pioneer is somebody that's spending more than 70,
full time, 70 hours.
70 hours
at least per month in the ministry. So it's like
you were a pioneer when it was 92, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it went from
first
90,
started. Yeah.
Went from 90 to 70. A lot of things have been loosened up. Like, for some reason now the beards are okay.
And now publishers don't even count time. Regular publishers don't count time. So the standard for which a brother is considered
To be measured.
is not even something you can ask. How many hours is a brother out? But anywho, I had been pioneering for 10 years. I had been a ministerial servant.
All those numbers were arbitrary to begin with, right? Because I remember like one time. I remember as a unbaptized publisher, I used to have to fill out that little thing.
Your timesheet.
I was like, oh, I only got like 12, but you only had to have 10, right? Mm-hmm. I put like 34 on there. Just to be, and I was sitting there like the inner oh man, something might happen in me. I sat there the whole meeting. I was like, ooh, somebody gonna walk past me because you had to put it in the box.
And I will tell you this, I felt the most guilt when I would push an extra hour onto my time when it was at the point of 70 hours. I would feel so bad. And you're like, oh, well, I was technically on my way, and so you start to sponge time. But
and then it was that man at the gas station. I tried to give him a track.
All that time you try to do. So I got to the point where I'm a ministerial servant. I am a pioneer. I am a public speaker on Sunday talks. I am outgoing speaker to other congregations giving talks. And I was preparing a talk one day, and I thought it'd be a great idea to give some extra background information and research. And I was going to basically use the fact that the sin of Eden is when sin entered the world, and thus disease and death and all the things that we know. So smart me thought, ooh, I bet if I look into the records of like dinosaurs, there probably is like no history of like dinosaur diseases. They probably just showed that they all died of old age because, everything was perfect with the dinosaurs. They were eating each other, but they wouldn't like have dino diabetes.
They would eat each other or whatnot.
Exactly. So God was okay with that for several million years. But, rationalization. But anywho, you get to a point where you realize, okay, I'm going to find this. So I go and find that there are, in fact, traces of cancers and tumors and things like that in the Paleolithic record of findings. And on top of, they'll find a mammoth with this. Oh, and you're like, oh, this is a disease. And there are ancient diseases. So if Adam introduced sin and Adam is 6,000 years old, there should be no fossilized diseases to be found. There should be nothing old in the record books for me to find. And when I did, that was the first thing that made the onion start to peel. And then you realize that humanity has been around for way longer than 6,000 years. And there are very verifiable evidences that there have been cities that are now underwater, that part of the land wasn't above water, but 10, 12, 15,000 years ago. So you're like, oh, if a city is there, well, that means those people lived there at least 20,000 years ago. So all of those the math wasn't mathing. So when the math don't math, that point for me was when everything started to fall apart. And at that point, I'm now in my late 20s. I am in a faith that I've been in my entire life. And I am also, unbeknownst to the people around me, whether they suspect it or not, I am gay. And you can't be gay and a witness. And I know this, but being a witness offers you what? Everlasting life and a paradise earth. So in my head, I'm thinking, you know what? You forego what you want. You forego your pleasures. You forego what you want in life, in the world for now. And if you're a good boy, Tony, and listen to all these rules, you're going to get life on earth forever. Your mind will be fixed, and whatever's wrong with you will be corrected. And you'll go on. It was when those onion layers started to peel for me that my promise started to fade. And I started to realize, oh man, the thing that me and my mother are still working for, to see grandma and hope Andrew comes back and all the things that we were wanting through my research, the source that we were going to get it, I was finding out, oh, this isn't right. This isn't accurate. This isn't accurate. That's not accurate. This isn't accurate. I went from one thing to the next, as many people who go through their actual studies. For your whole life as a witness, all your studying is done within the witness world. And because we were witnesses in the 90s, in the beginning of a computer,
there's no YouTube.
There was no researching of how to find out other people's opinions of things. There were only outlying stories of apostates. Oh, and you never go online, because even the world 15, 20, 30 years ago definitely would have told you, you don't date people online. Now that's how everyone meets and dates and gets married. But back then, again, everything online, even to the world, was almost scary. So to witnesses, it was terrifying to think you're going to go online and research. So those tools weren't as accessible. And by the time that they were accessible, so many witnesses were mentally locked into a world of not searching outside of their bubble. So because I went through many years of knocking on doors and only reading Watchtowers, I was locked in that bubble until I finally started to search. And it was from a talk that I was trying to put together, a good illustration on how we can build faith on the archaeological record. And then the archaeological record.
I want to ask a question, because I kind of saw it in your eyes as you talked about it. How did that moment God damn, is it like, oh, this don't make sense? Is it just like, do you try to convince? Did you give the talk?
No, I didn't. I remember calling and letting them know that I was sick. I wasn't going to be able to make it. And I faked sick, but I really was. Because in that moment, you were sick to your stomach. I was sick to my stomach. And I went into a very steep, deep depression. At that point, was right in the beginning of Mom's first diagnosis of cancer. So, because she was diagnosed with cancer at the exact same moment that this happened, everyone in the witness world thought, oh, Tony's not handling his mom's diagnosis well. Be kind. Don't try to push him. And we know Tony. So most people thought that. And then I think once time passed and then people find out now in my life that, oh, I heard Tony's gay, people will then go, oh, he left because that. You left because you couldn't live with this. You were gay. And it's like, no, I was there, and there are lots of gay people still there who are withholding being gay because they are living for a promise. And there are people who are actively being gay and not talking about it. But that wasn't a factor for me. That wasn't a reason to leave, because again, I accepted the idea that we're born into Adamic sin. You're born without an ear. You're born with brown hair. I'm born with fat ankles. Everyone's born differently. Some of those defects are what we call sins that literally make us want things that are inappropriate. And that was the way that whole world was. That's the way that world was sort of built. Like, oh, it's just another thing that could go wrong. And if it happens to you, you just got to sit over here, be quiet about it. Because and that was one thing after I started coming out and I came out to Mom and she knew how I really felt and everything. I started to question her. I said, I've always wondered this. Why was none of our literature ever written for gay children in the organization and then I realized, oh, in their mind, they're still working on the premise of, oh, it's a choice. You chose to be gay. No one, and now we're enlightened enough to know that people are who they are.
They are.
But at that time, that idea of it's a choice means we don't have to make literature to give you therapy to deal with this. And I said to her, if this is the truth, how could they neglect a whole group of people that exist in the world and not offer them a viable way into their organization and to coexist with their sinful nature, other than just briefly mentioning in one sentence, don't touch nobody.
I'm really trying. I almost broke down through this. I caught myself, but in fun. As a person that was knocking on people's doors and who was almost being conditioned to learn how to profile people. Okay, what happens when you open the door and the most hello?
I asked.
Wait,
that.
Do you say, "Oh, this nigga is done"? Because I have to not only save you to get you to Jesus, I have to save you from something else.
What happens if you knock on that person's door, a little kid answers, and then says, hold on, let me go get my daddy. And the two dads come to the door. Your message is, oh, hi, we're teaching about this message. For you to qualify for it, I need your family to break up. Mindy, I'm sorry. Daddy and daddy's got to go. They got to separate today.
Hey,
you pick one dad, I guess. And that's what I was saying. I said, there's no remedy.
Can I tell you? I have been
just to start. You got to design.
There was a certain brother that we used to go on field service with, and he was the one that was with us when that dog just didn't bite us. Remember that day? And so I'm not going to say his name because we chose not to use people's names in this episode. So a few times he was, yep. I've watched him go to the door and the person opened the door and they got like a real. The reason I brought up that because that really happened. We opened the door and he was the type of gay man like Damon Wayans used to play. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you that the man said hello, and we stood there, and I realized that he didn't want no smoke. He realized in that moment that he was going to have to he was either going to have to tell this man,
your whole life is wrong.
You're going to have to change a whole lot of shit to come to us, and
just for day one.
We fishing you out. You didn't come to us.
Yeah, we're knocking on your door to tell you you're horrible.
We came to you, we assessed your whole life in 5 seconds, and I realized that
the horrible thing in the world is you.
All those other people that went toe-to-toe with, he didn't do it. And that was the only time I saw that. And I remember standing there and I said, like, to me, not being funny, but gay people are always funny to me. It was the Damon Wayans and hated it. It was that I saw, you know, and it was just, it had a comedic side to it. So I saw him and I said, oh, let's see what he gonna do. And I said, And this is as an adult, because I was probably about 14, 15 years old when me and was at that door. And it just makes so much more sense now. I'm like, wow, like you really would have had to convince him of your religion, tell him that everything that he's doing must stop.
Essentially, you're telling him my religion is here to say you are the bad thing.
Did you know that marijuana became a conscious decision? And beards are. You know what? My mom damn near knocked my block off because I had a goddamn chin strap beard. I had one of them Johns, the Joe Button. I had one of those right when it first come in. I said, "Oh, this shit is coming
Little
in."
John B.
Yeah, little John B action. I said, "Man, I'm every bit of a freshman. I got juniors and seniors."
Cut it off.
She like, "Hey," I'm like,
Cut
"Oh,
it off.
oh shit, I got a beard. The rest of these niggas don't got a beard."
Oh, you look so handsome. Cut it off.
Shit. So that just knowing that a lot of stuff has gotten like moved around and what we thought the rules were arbitrary, they were. Because guess what? Guess what arbitrary means? That shit can change. That shit can change. Okay? Okay, if I need you to jump over a 12-inch motherfucking goddamn trash can today, tomorrow will be 16, and then we can go back to 10 on Tuesday. Okay? We're gonna do that. You know what? This is almost as funny as those new commercials that are it's an app where you can ask somebody if you're going to heaven. I support that shit more. I can get on my phone, play my little games on my phone, and figure out if I'm going to heaven or not. But we are going to close this. Do you have anything else that's burning a hole in your heart that you must get off? But you know what? That goddamn dude, I didn't really like him. He looked funny in the face. I didn't like him. He had like a Freddy Krueger look to him. But
Ain't nobody ever like.
I didn't like him.
But I think the thing of our story that to me is dynamic is the fact that we left under different circumstances and for different reasons, but together they make up the whole reason why many people ultimately are fighting. I feel like you represent the emotional, visceral response to the immoral side of it, and I represent the side that went on the analytical. Well, is it accurate? You know, is it worth the beating? You came from the side of, hey, hold up, they shouldn't be beating us. And then I'm over here saying, well, if they're beating us for a reason, it's okay. And then I found out, wait a minute, it ain't even no reason.
I know how to ride home runs. Like I really can hop a 10-foot wall. I can put my glove up and I can pull it back. Like, did you know that when they shack fly balls, I used to run this way when the ball was over my head just to make it like extra? I really was having fun. But God forbid you have a any type of athletic ability, and you know what? The man that was in that meeting, I'm gonna tell you. I hope your car runs into a gas tanker. Tony, can we end this? Because I just want to. I'm finally go get in the car and let it out.
But yeah, this is for everybody who has had doubts or worries or thoughts. This is just our story. It's not to change your reason, because again, it's not like we're saying come jump in our boat over here to do this. We are saying this is what happened to us over there. If that story sounds amazing to you, go over there. You'll find a lot of that happening over there. And if it's something that's messing with you and you are there in that organization, then you should know that there is hope on the other side. There is life after the organization, and that the word truth is not owned by that organization.
And to my cousins, I love y'all.
And actually, one brief note on that. They are right now in the YouTube space as well. And I just recently came across some of our younger cousins' work. It is impeccable. It is at a very high quality. And it almost hurts my soul to know that she won't be able to manifest that into something actually tangible and profitable, even as I see her try to interact on a very standoff base in her comments with her viewers. It is very sterilized and from a distance, and I appreciate that on a professional level, but I see it from the witness eye that I know it comes from, knowing that through this passion of hers that she has through our family to create and to make and to do things, one day she too will be met with that wall of there is no other side. You're in a world where you're trying to plan for 10 years. And that don't happen there.
Hey, y'all. It's been fun. It's time for Andrea and Steve's sons to run.
Drew Network. Drew Network.
This is really been tough to get through for me. Thank you to my brother for coming and sitting next to me. I really appreciate him for doing that. We hear y'all. Remember, cleanliness travels like defense. If it smells like fish, it's fucking trout. I'm just saying, like, you know what I'm saying? If you walk in and you're wrinkling your nose around, it smells like roach spray, there's probably roaches there. If it smells like misogyny, it is, you know. And you know, if you are raising a young Kamala Harris, shout out to you. I think I got like a young, like whatever the female version of Dave Chappelle is. That's what I got on my hands. Like just a witty, goddamn.
It is amazing to know that whatever you have the heart that's able to let her become that person.
Say that shit.
And that is just, that's the truest definition of potential, is almost to the fact that your promise is to stand back and to nurture whatever is going to sprout. You're going to nurture it.
Hey, really quick, shout out to Binergy, whatever the hell I can't pronounce your name, cuz we done been on the sticks, man, playing
Biden 24.
Call of Duty and shit. Shout out to you. Thank you for following through with us. Hey, like I said, it's been fun. It's time for these two here, sons to run. Cleanliness travels like defense. Go ahead, give somebody a hug, and stay out of the Kingdom Hall. Bye, y'all.
Can I like my hair?
Your hair looks beautiful.